China was once half a world away, her people and her problems of little concern to us. But today, China is next door by clipper plane. And in our shrinking, warring world, what happens to China, in some measure, happens to us. Here is a land of vast distances, 1/3 again as large as the United States. Here, 450 million people have chosen to fight for freedom. Here began the spreading fire of war, the ruthless mechanized attack on civilization, which now encircles half the globe. The world expected easy conquest and defeat, but many bitter years have passed, and China still fights on. The whole world wonders what makes this miracle. What is the secret of unconquerable China? That is the question Rey Scott, young American correspondent and cameraman, determined to answer. Scott knew China. He had covered the war from the time invasion first struck the Shanghai front. He saw the lost battalion in its heroic stand, the flaming ruins of Shanghai, Canton, and Nanking. So Scott went back to China, this time with a motion picture camera, a camera destined to get the China story from Hong Kong to the borders of holy Tibet. And now, into China with Rey Scott.
North of the Hong Kong border, near Canton, stands a relic of another century, a stone watchtower in the center of sprawling rice paddies. The Chinese have torn down most of these towers. Invaders use them for machine gun nests. China is the country of the good earth. Her people live close to the soil. And while the men are off to war, the women carry on in the fields. This peasant woman uses a fan to shield the baby on her back from the blazing rays of a South China sun. The crop, for the most part, is rice, China's staff of life. In sharp contrast to such peaceful scenes, war posters remind the people that on their courage rests the decision for freedom or slavery. The woman in this poster is saying to her husband, "You take the gun, I'll take the hoe," though when it becomes necessary, the women will shoulder rifles too. And certainly here is part of the miracle of China's resistance. Peasants in the fields, workers in the shops, the Minutemen of China. A swift call stops men working at simple tasks. Rifles come out of hiding. The humblest villager takes his place in the new wall of China. Actors in a grim drama, the guerrillas are difficult to conquer because they're hard to catch. They cannot be distinguished from the ordinary run of farmers or shopkeepers or students because that's what they are, and that's how they dress. The broadswordsmen are the most daring. It is their job to crawl up on enemy sentries and with their silent weapons prepare the way for their comrades, harmless peasants who change in an instant into fierce defenders of their land. Bands of guerrillas like these are to be found all over China, even behind the enemy's lines, raiding garrisons, blockading roads, blowing up bridges, harassing the Japanese with lightning thrusts. They strike hard and fast, withdraw quickly, then strike again. The guerrillas have their own Red Cross units. Picked women and girls are recruited for nursing. Others do sentry duty. All are alert eyes closely watching strangers and travelers quick to detect a suspicious or traitorous move. These are the people fighting the people's war. This is the first of the secrets of China's resistance. The invader did not reckon on the deathless courage of men defending an ageless tradition. It may yet prove the balance of fighting strength that will turn the enemy back to the sea. From Hong Kong, I took a plane for Haiphong, seaport of Indochina. Now, Haiphong, terminus of the branch highway that leads to the Burma Road, that all-important lifeline between China and the outside world. Wharves piled high with American-made products, tires, machine parts, medical supplies, gasoline, bandages, steel, the lifeblood of a nation bound for its heart at Chungking. After I left, this port was taken over by the Japanese when they entered Indochina, and later, millions of dollars worth of American goods were seized by the invaders. Here, all foreigners are suspect. I was twice arrested for taking pictures, and even these shots of American trucks had to be smuggled out of the country. These are but a few of thousands of trucks waiting to be driven up the tortuous road to Chungking. The two trucks covered with Union Jacks are loaded with supplies for a Canadian mission station far in the interior. I made arrangements to join a truck convoy for the hazardous trip. The road we'll travel is a trunk line which joins the famous Burma Road, 2,300 miles of winding highway stretching from Rangoon in the south to bomb-scarred Chungking in the heart of China. The dash across the border always was made at night to escape Japanese planes. And as dusk falls, we're off. The China border about a mile away. We drive on all through the night, wondering what may be waiting around each turn of the road. By dawn, we're well into the province of Guangxi, rural China again. We pass farmers hurrying to market. Now, that little trot, by the way, isn't just for speed alone. Notice the rhythmic up and down action it imparts to the springy bamboo poles. Now, actually, on each upswing, the poles, not the man, carry the burden, which means the farmer carries the load only half the time. Bright skies too often are laden with sudden death screaming down from Japanese bombers, so the drivers of trucks and Red Cross ambulances take cover. These are the hell drivers who pilot the truck convoys over supply routes. Believe me, theirs is a hot job in more ways than one. There. That's the right idea. Rivers are still busy highways. There's rice on its way to another village. Roads in China, especially for motor transport, are new, but rivers are as old as history. This ferry is only the first of dozens on the southeastern road. Nanning, one-time capital of Guangxi. In the daytime, a deserted city, streets almost empty, stores boarded up. There are few air raid dugouts here. Instead, the people leave for the fields just after dawn. But at night, the streets are teeming again, the stores open for business as usual. Now, we've seen the guerrillas. Here are China's regular troops, camouflaged with leaves and foliage, These are the frontline fighters who have borne the brunt of China's warfare against terrific odds. Theirs is a gallant record. For give the Chinese soldier something tangible to fight for, and he's the equal of any fighting man on earth. Roads are torn up to form tank traps against the swift-moving armored cars of the enemy. At least half of the young men being trained in China's interior are volunteers. And here's another secret of China's resistance, her inexhaustible manpower. It is estimated that China already has 3 to 4 million men under arms, millions more in training. Young Kai Ming, who was a student when the war broke out, camouflages his helmet. And still more of the secret of China's power is her army's amazing endurance, built on rations that would cripple a Western army. Rice twice a day is all that China's soldiers ask for or get. Chur fan la, or come and get it. Scars on the leg of this 15-year-old soldier shows he's already seen action, but it certainly hasn't affected his appetite. Seemingly in never-ending procession, trucks swing along the Burma Road, the route above all others the Japanese want bombed out of existence. The Burma Road may truly be called the one great symbol of the miracle of China, built by free men, not slaves, as were the ancient pyramids. 1 million workers, men, women, and even children, literally tore away whole mountainsides with their bare hands and primitive tools. They cut through miles of rock, graded down hills, filled in ravines. An unparalleled of mass heroism. Casualties were high. Thousands died to build the highway that has kept China alive. Here a Japanese bomb struck, aimed at the truck convoy just ahead of ours. Almost before the smoke had cleared, the workers repair the damage. They wait for bombs to fall again. These humble road workers are the unsung heroes of China. Time and again, the convoy takes cover to hide from Jap bombers. Drivers smear mud over the gleaming red crosses of the ambulances. Red crosses are bright targets for the marksmen overhead. Keep supplies moving. That's the never-ending cry. And no possible route is overlooked. The tiniest stream is a carrier. Whole boatloads are dragged upstream by gangs of men trudging along the shore. Near Guiyang, the ambulances reach the hospital of Dr. Robert Lim, who almost single-handed is training China's desperately needed medical corps. Before the war, China had a bare 2,000 doctors, the equivalent of 1 doctor for every 250,000 people. World-renowned physician and surgeon Robert Lim, on the right, is but one of China's distinguished sons who has sacrificed a personal career in the cause of freedom. Belief in the things China fights for has brought to her aid these hell drivers, many of whom have volunteered from across the seas. China is a land of many peoples. Here in the marketplace of the village are members of an ancient tribe, the Miaos. Many centuries ago, these people retreated before the invading Huns, and today live far back in the mountains where they still preserve their ancient dress, their tribal customs, and their own language. They come to town only on market days. The Chinese call them the shy people. But even the shy people have taken the cause of China as their own. And when the war came to the Burma Road country, they volunteered to fight, and tribesmen comprise a fifth of China's army. The girls have strong, intelligent faces, bred of sturdy mountaineers. But they are still a shy people. Eggs are sold here by weight, rather than by the dozen. Old customs, age-old patterns of life go on as before. Tiger hairs are fastened to the baby's forehead so that evil spirits will mistake it for a tiger and leave it strictly alone. Smoking was known to China long before Sir Walter Raleigh introduced it to the Western world. In the quiet strength of faces like this, we see the inborn character of the Chinese people. Thousands of feet above sea level, the Burma Road rides at the top of a mountain range, opening up breathtaking vistas of 100 miles and more, but bringing peril in the form of sheer drops into great chasms. There are many things to baffle modern science in age-old China. American engineers had said it would take 7 years to build this road with the best of modern machinery. The Chinese, without any machinery at all, threw themselves into the task that by every rule was foolhardy, impossible of achievement. And truly these people, in their dauntless strength, worked a miracle. The road that would have taken American engineers 7 years to build was completed, and trucks rolling over it in less than 14 months. The road carries two-way traffic. What exports China can spare are trucked to the coast to be traded for more war materials. On every hand is contrast. These pony trains of another era still are in use on all of China's highways. The red tassels mark the lead ponies, and mountain coolies are still carrying their share of war supplies. Convoy drivers are accustomed to these mishaps of the road, and it's only a matter of minutes until everything is righted. The danger is from the sky, not the river. Convoys stalled on the open road are what Japanese bomber pilots dream about. The Chinese learned a bitter lesson when 50 or 100 trucks were destroyed in a single attack. Now the convoys are limited to 8 and 10. Chungking at last, nerve center of China at war. A city built on the cliffs and hills at the juncture of the Jialing and Yangtze rivers. Easy to locate from the air, easy to bomb. A city which bears what may be a prophetic name, for Chungking means happy again. Now legend says 300 steps lead up to Chungking, so I counted them. There were actually 340. Perhaps I should have carried the pony. The people of Chungking have been subjected to relentless air raids. But the big raid, the raid Japanese militarists have vowed would blast Chungking from the face of the earth, that raid is yet to come. Meanwhile, amid the debris which testifies to the ferocity of previous attacks, life goes on. Flaming war posters are everywhere, proclaiming the people's will to continued resistance, the bravery of China's fighting men. Chungking is a city both old and new, a combination of the East and the West. Modern structures, public utilities, automobiles. The marble building on the left is the Bank of Sichuan. You will not recognize it the next time you see it. This is the Bank of Communications. A post office truck, part of a postal system that is 3,000 years old. The United States gunboat guards the approach to the United States Embassy, which stands on the hilltop on the south bank of the Yangtze. The matting around the embassy is kept drenched with water, a primitive form of air conditioning. The staff of the embassy, the man giving me a light, is the former United States ambassador to China, Nelson Trusler Johnson. The Tutuila is a sister ship of the ill-fated Panay, destroyed by Japanese bombers in the early days of the war. The United States Navy maintains its own truck service. Trips are made regularly up and down the Burma Road, bringing supplies to the Tutuila. Its hills and cliffs provide Chungking with a perfect site for air raid shelters, and quite literally, the city is dug in for the duration. Day and night, laborers are busy building new dugouts, enlarging old ones, making all more livable, more comfortable, more secure for whatever lies ahead. Two-thirds of its original population have been evacuated, but enough men, women, and children remain to make it a military objective for bombing planes. But if it's a miracle that's saving China, here truly is an awe-inspiring part of it. Steel mills, whole industries that were literally moved thousands of miles by the sheer, stubborn will of men to whom nothing was impossible. There are three phases of China's resistance which might be termed guerrilla or mobile unit strategy. As in warfare, so in industry, China's factories have become mobile units. Blasted out of their industrial cities on the coast and in the Yangtze Valley, 90% of their factories destroyed or taken over by the invaders, the Chinese move more than 130,000 tons of factory equipment, carried on the backs of men or hauled in junks up the swiftly flowing Yangtze. Whole factories were reassembled 1,000, 1,500 miles into the west and are in operation today. Just another secret of China's resistance. Once in a while, even a bomb crater can be turned to a good purpose. A bit muddy, perhaps, but cool, wet, and fun. Hey, fellas, come on in. Thousands of refugee children present one of the biggest problems in China today. Homeless, separated from relatives and parents, they roam the streets and countryside. Scores of these youngsters are gathered up after every raid to become the direct charges of the First Lady in China, Madame Chiang Kai-shek, who gives them the care and devotion that death tried to take away. Baths, warm beds, food, and affection, these are the things that make a happy, healthy child. Without them, he grows to sullen manhood. With them, these orphans will have the courage and optimism to build a new China. I told her not to watch the camera. She's trying awfully hard, but... Madam and Generalissimo Chiang Kai-shek on their way to a mass meeting of students and soldiers. On Chiang Kai-shek rests the leadership of 1/5 the world's people. He is the symbol which has welded together divergent groups, from the communists of the north to the monastic orders of Tibet, into a united nation. His is the task of showing the way through long, cruel years of war to the democratic, progressive new China worth fighting for. Here in the presence of the sainted Sun Yat-sen, he recalls again the principles on which the Chinese Republic was founded. Again and again he has proved his willingness to die for China, inspiring the same fervor in every man under his command. The fierce heroism of China's soldiers has been repeatedly demonstrated, as in the determined stand of the 8th Route Army, which has repelled every attempt by Japan to cross the Yellow River. Dr. H.H. Kung, Minister of Finance, plays a vital role in the conduct of the war. Both Dr. Kung and his wife, the sister of Madame Chiang Kai-shek, were educated in America and know our Western world well. Chiang Kai-shek is the youngest of the Sung sisters and probably the most famed graduate of our own Wellesley College. There is a third and equally beloved Sung sister, the widow of Sun Yat-sen. The devotion of the Generalissimo to his lovely wife is one of the legends of China. Madame Chiang herself is a symbol of the new China. Less than a generation ago, women in China had no status outside the compounds of their husbands' homes. Today, millions of young women following her example are training themselves for an active and creative role in national life. But not far from the restful garden of Chiang Kai-shek, the marching feet of China's fighting men trudge down a dusty road. 200 miles to the northwest in Chengdu, there is to be found another part of the miracle, the spirit of a people for whom nothing that happens today can stop the building of tomorrow. On the campus of West China Union University in Chengdu, there is being written a new kind of story that has to do with the courage, faith, and vision of the young people of China, the students at the great universities on the seaboard when the war started. Japan well knew that only a leaderless nation remains a conquered nation. So in the first fury of the invasion, 80% of Chinese colleges were bombed in a deliberate attempt to kill the young men and women who would be leaders and teachers in the new China and to destroy their centers of learning. Then began the greatest intellectual migration in history. Whole student bodies picked up their books and equipment and started their epic trek hundreds of miles into China's interior. Here at Chengdu, girls from Jinling and thousands of other students are training both mind and body for the important work that lies ahead. Sports of every type are evidence of the modern spirit of these young people. But above all, the relentless search for knowledge goes on. For knowledge means freedom. And these young Chinese have dedicated their lives to a free China. Refugees make soft-soled shoes in a cooperative workshop. Certainly here is a most important part of New China. For this is true democracy. It's help yourself by helping your neighbor. It's a new hope for hundreds of thousands of refugees. And far from the east, it's a tremendous source of things China needs to care for itself and to keep out the invader. Indusco, they call it, the industrial cooperative. And since the movement began in the summer of 1938, more than 3,000 of these vest pocket industries have been scattered throughout the interior of China, each owned and managed by the workers themselves. China is a land of many religions. Processions like these are typical, priests and nuns ceremoniously threading their way through the streets, Taoist monks in their resplendent robes. Taoism is the earliest of the Chinese religions, older even than those of Buddha and Confucius. Its ancient philosophy prizes culture and the achievements of the spirit above material possessions. Harvest time in Sichuan. Rich black earth fed by the oldest irrigation system known to man produces a bumper crop. Everywhere I went, I spoke to the people. These farmers far in the interior told of machine gunnings of their tiny villages. Yes, the meaning of invasion has been brought home to them. They made it clear and emphatic. They want no peace without victory. It's manpower, not gasoline in China. And so these are Chengdu taxicabs. 20 cents and you ride all day.